After the dreadful World War II of the Broken Era, Joshua, the main person leading the events of World of Countries, or WOC, moved away with all the people he had been serving with for years. This move left the nations of New Siege and New Scovia and the United Middle School Nations, UMSN, to fall and crumble, and the Twisted Misfits to nearly collapse. However, despite being moved away from them, Joshua kept in touch with everybody else virtually. With this virtual contact and new people coming in to WOC from a different region, ideas started to sprout up. And one thing to really kick off the era was the arising pandemic, and everything was about to go completely virtual. The events of the virtual era happened before the pandemic. In January of 2020, Joshua and the rest of his old friends could only contact through iMessage. However, one of the old friends, named Condor, came in and everybody had crazy ideas in mind. Long story short, they eventually used iMessage to create a warmongering group. This group was called the Republic Battle Group, or RBG for short. Condor led a crusade against the people in group chats by spamming messages. It was all a series of low moves, but it was the most they could do for now, that is. People's phone numbers were gathered and their group chats pillaged, until Condor's eventual retirement later in February, bringing the RBG to an end. Condor didn't just retire from leaving the RBG, he completely went into the shadows. He made no contact. He did not answer texts, calls, emails, or anything. He was completely silent. After his reign, rumors and theories began to sprout up about him. Some may have thought he was just abandoning them. Some thought he had a new phone. Whatever people thought, it was clear he wasn't coming back. Fast forward a few weeks later, and iMessage wasn't really the domain for groups anymore. Although used, WOC began moving to video games, that one video game being Roblox. Joshua and his friend Carter began going around Roblox and helping people who were being bothered or harassed. On roleplay games, or just about any game at all really. They began to make a name for themselves as helping hands in the community, but barely recognized. So, to get themselves recognized and to further their goals, they created a group called the Coloride on March 7th, born to fight for equality. They gathered people along the way, such as old RBG veterans like Caden, Andrew, and others. They even gathered people who met online through the game, and the group grew. The pandemic came to make everybody virtual, which really kicked off the group. The Coloride came across challenges. In its early days, they accused Caden of treason for trying to create another group, and he was banned for quite some time. Later on, the Coloride trained people to fight. As they gained more, they realized they could use Roblox to make some sort of story. The art of storytelling this way was interesting, and they did it. Storylines were written up, but there wasn't much of an audience, so the storylines became abandoned. Further on, in the late days of March and early days of April, the Coloride became less like a group of heroes and more like a group of operative spies. They became less like the Avengers and more like the Kingsmen. They went on missions against people and worked on the inside to analyze game algorithms and target and take down people on Roblox. The more people this group gained, the more Carter put himself at the top and began to make controversial decisions. Joshua realized this and began a radical idea with others, one day dreaming of Carter's overthrow. On April 18th, Joshua had enough. He gathered people named Nancy, Blake, Andrew, and even Caden after he was recently unbanned, as well as the support of others. He prepared them for a revolution the next morning, and that's exactly what happened. On April 19th, 2020, Joshua and his group led a protest through iMessage, overthrowing Carter and abandoning the Coloride. They began to think of what to do now. An idea sprouted up, an idea that nobody could think was possible. They wouldn't create a battle group or a mission team. No, they would somehow manage to try and make a virtual country.